Hi, my name is Autif Kamal, and in this episode of Be Logical, I'm going to introduce a type of categorical syllogism or argument, and then I'm going to expand on conditional propositions. That is, I'm going to show you how to flip terms. What I mean by that is that let's say you have a conditional proposition. To flip terms, you would formulate it again, but either make the terms contrary to the terms initially given or contradictory. And those are two different things. They're not the same thing. Okay? And then I'm going to apply those concepts to an article on Guess Who and a 6-year-old girl's observation of gender inequality in that game. Alright, so a categorical syllogism consists of, at the very least, 3 categorical propositions. You have 2 premises, those are each categorical propositions, and you have a conclusion. That's a categorical proposition. A proposition consists of a subject, a verb, and a predicate. Alright, and a proposition is called categorical because the terms that it consists of reflect categories. So, for example, Autif Kamal, that is not a category. It refers to one specific person, exactly one person, me. Whereas people, that is a category because people does not refer to one particular person. It could refer to any person. Okay, and the nature of categories are such that they also subsume other categories under it. So, for example, a category that people might contain under it would be mechanic. Now, 3 other types of mechanics, which mechanic in general would subsume under it would be like a bike mechanic, an aircraft mechanic, an automotive mechanic. Now, if you could say something true about mechanics in general, then it would have to be true about each of those types of mechanics. So I'll give you an example. Premise 1, every mechanic repairs machinery. Premise 2, some bicyclists are mechanics. So the conclusion you get is that some bicyclists repair machinery. Now just to go back over that again, mechanic is a category and it's entirely subsumed under repairs machinery. Bicyclist is a category which is said to be partially subsumed, at least, under mechanics. And since bicyclist is partially subsumed under mechanics, and mechanics is entirely subsumed under repairs machinery, then that means that bicyclist must also be partially subsumed under the category repair machinery. Okay? Now moving on to conditional propositions. Now let's say the conditional proposition we have is if I leave the iron plugged in, it will be hot. And just to clarify, if I leave the iron plugged in would be the antecedent or the cause, and it will be hot would be the consequence or the effect. Now the key term in the antecedent would be plugged in. So if you were to make that term contrary, you would have if I leave the iron unplugged, it will be cold, and cold would be opposite of hot. So to make terms contrary, you're making them opposite to what they originally were. Now, to make the terms contradictory, you are negating what they were before. And in some cases, when you negate the terms, you get the same meaning if you had just made them opposite. So for example, if the iron is not plugged in, which means the same thing as being unplugged, it will not be hot. Now, to say that it will not be hot is not the same as saying that it will be cold, because it could be warm. Okay? So That's how, by making terms either contrary or contradictory, you make yourself aware of other possibilities. And it's important that you negate both the terms in the antecedent and the consequent, rather than just one or the other. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I could explain how Guess Who works, but I think it would be more interesting if I just show you the like really old, or well, kind of old commercial for it. So I'll do that right now.
Is it me? Is it you?
Who knows?
Guess who?
Can you guess who? It's a mystery.
Does your person wear a hat?
No. You're history. But I'm still here.
Can you guess who?
Does your person have a beard?
Uh-huh.
You're out of here.
Can you guess who? Do you have a clue?
Does your person wear glasses?
Yes, I'm gone. Me too.
Can you guess who?
Not you or you. You're Sam. You win. Let's play again.
Can you guess who?
Guess who? Game cards do not actually talk.
Okay, so in the article, the girl is referred to as R. Well, I assume it's a girl. They actually don't say what her gender is, but I assume she's female. And she makes an observation. The observation that she makes is that there are 19 males and 5 females. And she thinks it's unfair. So with the help of her mom, they write a letter to the CEO of Hasbro Games. And basically this is how we could express her view in a categorical syllogism. Okay, premise 1. Every board game with an unequal representation of males and females should be complained about. Premise 2. Some board games, specifically Guess Who, has an unequal representation of males and females. So conclusion, Guess Who should be complained about. Now, 2 things to note about this categorical syllogism. Number 1, premise 1 sets up a kind of principle so that any board game other than Guess Who, which also has an unequal representation of males and females, should also be complained about. Okay, and then second, notice that Guess Who, it satisfies that principle. So then, because it satisfies that principle, then it should be one of those board games that is complained about. Okay. Now she says that one of the consequences of there being an unequal representation of males and females is that well, number 1, let me go specifically to the quote. She says, so this is exactly what she says. She says, if girls want to be a girl in Guess Who, they'll always lose against a boy, and it will be harder for them to win. So I'm going to focus on the antecedent of that conditional proposition, but I'm only going to focus on the second consequent in that same conditional proposition, which is that it will be harder for them to win. So then this is the conditional proposition that we get. Okay, so we'll get, if girls want to be girls, then it'll be harder for them to win. I'm going to make the second mention of girls contrary, and I'm going to make harder contrary. So if girls want to be boys, then it'll be easier for them, as in the girls, to win. Okay. Now in the third conditional proposition, I'm going to make the antecedent contradictory to the one originally given in the first conditional proposition. If girls do not want to be girls, which would probably be the same thing as them wanting to be boys, then it will not be harder for them to win. Now, not being harder for them to win is not the same as being easier. It could mean that it's of, instead of easier, it could be of medium difficulty for them to win. Okay? And then lastly, she says that, specifically, she says that if you don't fix it soon, as in make the game equal in how it represents males and females, she says, my mom could throw guess who out. Okay? So this is how we would express that. Actually, she already expresses it in a conditional proposition. If you don't fix it soon, my mom will throw it out. So now, we can't really make don't fix it contrary. Or at least I don't see how. So all I get is, if you fix it soon, my mom will keep it. So keep it would be contrary to throwing it out. In the third conditional proposition, if you fix it soon, which is the same as what we got in the second conditional proposition, then my mom will not throw it out. So here we just negated will throw out by saying will not throw it out, which again, in terms of the meaning, kind of means the same thing as just keeping it. Okay, so those are two examples of how if you make the terms in a conditional proposition either contrary or contradictory, it makes you aware of the other possibilities. Whether either of those additional conditional propositions are true or false will depend on the circumstances. So, is it true in every case that a game is fixed soon, that her mom will keep it? If you could think of a case in which that's not true, if you think of a case in which she throws it out anyway, then that would give you an example of how the second conditional proposition would not apply, or the third. Okay. Now, lastly, I want to give just one final categorical syllogism. So, premise 1: every board game that has an unequal representation of males and females should be thrown out. Premise 2: some board games, such as Guess Who, have an unequal representation of males and females. And so the conclusion you get is Guess Who should be thrown out. Now, something to note about that is, again, premise 1 sets up that principle so that if R and her mom have any other board games that have an unequal representation of males and females, those games should be thrown out as well, because those are also some board games that have an unequal representation of males and females. Okay? And that's it. Okay, alright, thank you for watching.